It's time to take a look at what's happening around Wyoming for Wednesday, October 29th. Bringing you headlines from the Cowboy State Daily News Center, I'm Mac Watson, brought to you by the Wyoming Business Council. Wyoming youth are our future, but they're leaving the state at almost twice the national average. What would bring them back home? Well, you can share your bold ideas with the Wyoming Business Council at wbc.pub/story. A rumor that Ukrainian President Zelensky is buying the 916,000-acre Pathfinder Ranch in Wyoming spread like wildfire on Monday. Cowboy State Daily's Renee Jean reports that the rumors aren't true. However, an offer has been made by somebody on the almost $80 million ranch.
Some guy on X with some strange name made a post claiming that a company with ties to Zelensky was buying the Pathfinder ranches. He didn't attribute any of that information to anybody. It pointed you to a website that looked exactly like the Swan Land Company, but the address was .us instead of .com. The real Swan Land Company is a .com. I'm told by the real estate company that was an American cattle rancher. So it's going back into cattle ranching.
The Pathfinder Ranch is massive, larger than the state of Rhode Island and bigger than New York City and Los Angeles combined. With the federal government shutdown going into a month now, the federal government's suspension of SNAP benefits has blue states suing the Trump administration, but Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland reports that in Wyoming, the Freedom Caucus and State Representative Trey Sherwood, a self-described grassroots Democrat of Laramie, have responded by quoting the same Bible verse.
They're both quoting the Gospel of Matthew, where Jesus calls for people to go out and serve the needy, saying he's represented in the needy. And the reason they're doing that is perhaps in part because there's not a lot the Wyoming legislature can do in its political function right now. Without going in this special session, they can't set up special funding. The governor said he's exploring options, but the state can't just transfer the SNAP program into its own control out of its own coffers. So right now, lawmakers are seeing their function as rallying their communities, serving others themselves, galvanizing that support.
The U.S. Department of Agriculture announced earlier on Tuesday that federal Supplemental Nutrition Program assistance, better known as SNAP benefits, also known as food stamps, won't be distributed starting November 1st as scheduled because of the federal government's weeks-long shutdown. After an 8-year investigation, 10 people have been busted accused of faking Wyoming residency so they can get hunting tags in Sweetwater County. Outdoors reporter Mark Hines reports that the Wyoming Game and Fish Department announced the violations on Monday.
What it boiled down to is multiple individuals were lying about their Wyoming residency to get resident hunting tags versus non-resident hunting tags, which there's a significant price difference. The resident tags are far less expensive. And so they had been running this scam for a while, and they finally wrapped up the investigation. It looks like these people all took plea agreements, but some pretty serious charges against multiple individuals coming out of this.
A spokesperson from Game and Fish tells Cowboy State Daily that this is more common than people think because Wyoming is a bucket list destination for hunters from across the country and the world. A man who was convicted of conspiracy to commit 2 murders at age 19 is not getting his sentences overturned. Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland reports the Wyoming Supreme Court wasn't swayed by science, Christopher Hicks claimed, shows that a 3-life-term sentence for someone so young is cruel and unusual punishment.
Scientific discoveries over the past 19 years or so, 18 years, have shown us that 19-year-olds' brains are very similar to that of juveniles. And we have court decisions saying you can't put juveniles away for, let's say, 3 consecutive life sentences like he got. And so he's saying, if my brain's the same as juveniles, then shouldn't I get another chance to argue sentencing, that I shouldn't have these life sentences heaped upon me? And the high court said, these questions of science are better put to lawmakers who can change the law. We're just going to interpret it in its context, and that means you don't get a new sentencing hearing.
Now, this idea is not unprecedented. Cases have been tried and won in Illinois, Massachusetts, and Washington state in recent years based on emerging neuroscience and similar constitutional arguments. I'll be back with more news right after this.
Did you know 1 in 8 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer in her lifetime? Early detection saves lives, and regular mammograms are one of the most effective ways to detect breast cancer early. Find peace of mind and relieve the pain of not knowing where your breast health stands. Get your mammogram at Outpatient Radiology, where we are proud to put your comfort and care first. We find the answer for your peace of mind.
Cheyenne residents are debating the level of a joint effort between police and sheriff's office SWAT response Monday to a man barricading himself in a building armed with a knife. Cowboy State Daily's Jackson Walker reports some residents call it extreme, while others say they're glad.
A business owner who saw the SWAT team response told Cowboy State Daily he wanted no part in that action and wanted to stay as far away as possible. A neighbor along that road, however, said they were glad to see such a strong police presence because it means that their community is being kept safe.
Authorities say that once the SWAT team was called to the scene, the barricaded suspect surrendered and was taken into custody without incident. The only elementary school in Bar None is one of two Natrona County schools set to be closed, meaning kids would have to be bused to Casper. Cowboy State Daily's Dale Killingbeck reports that more than 30 parents, teachers, and students packed into the school board meeting on Monday night and appealed to the board to not close the elementary school and the Woods Learning Center.
Both of those schools are kind of community schools. One in Casper is an alternative program that has pods for classrooms where they have kindergarten and first grade together, second and third. They have kids that are mentors to the younger kids. And people that spoke at the meeting were very passionate about how this worked for their children. There were alumnus of the school that spoke, saying that it helped them, prepared them for high school. One was a Fulbright scholar that said he would never have achieved what he did unless he had gone to that school. So some very passionate remarks about the Woods Learning Center in Casper.
A final decision on the schools will be made at the board's November 10th meeting. The school board projects that these closures would save the district $1.7 million. Two people seen in surveillance video near the Capitol about the time an explosive device was left there last week have been identified as subjects of interest and referred to prosecutors, DCI confirmed on Tuesday. Cowboy State Daily's Jackson Walker reports the agency has made contact with these two individuals, but no arrests have been made.
Two subjects of interest in the case of the explosive left at the Wyoming Capitol building last week have been contacted by investigators from the Division of Criminal Investigation, or DCI. Now, as part of this investigation, DCI has referred these two individuals to prosecutors for potential. While these two individuals are still considered subjects of interest rather than suspects, they could be facing charges associated with carrying explosives, bringing them to a public place, and using an explosive to threaten someone or cause them bodily harm.
Now, if convicted, the crime is a felony punishable by up to 10 years in prison and a fine of up to $10,000. A wildlife filmmaker set up his cameras shortly after a bull elk died near Togety Pass to see what he could capture. Cowboy State Daily's Mark Hines reports videographer Jake Davis of Jackson captured a once-in-a-lifetime scene of the circle of life in the wild.
This was earlier this year during the depths of winter. He saw a bull elk that was in really bad shape. Apparently, he thinks it might have escaped an initial attack by wolves because it had a lot of wounds to its hindquarters. The elk was dead and his carcass was laying there. So he set up cameras around the spot and caught all kinds of cool footage. The wolves did eventually show up, but there were also foxes, ravens, golden eagles, coyote or two. Just all kinds of critters were coming in to get their share of this.
Davis tells Cowboy State Daily that one of the wolves actually picked up and moved a camera, and he did recover it with bite marks and all. The camera was unharmed. And that's today's news. Get your free digital subscription to Wyoming's only statewide newspaper by hitting that daily newsletter button at cowboystatedaily.com. And you can watch this newscast every day by clicking subscribe on our YouTube channel or listen to us on your favorite podcast app. Thanks for watching. I'm Mac Watson for Cowboy State Daily.